Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Ridiculously Amazing Agent podcast. I am so psyched to be here with a special guest. We have the one, the only Torey from Rocket Referrals. Torey, how are you feeling today on our podcast?
Great. I was just saying before we started, it's super hot in my office, so hopefully I don't break into sweat while I'm going through this. I know it's high pressure and everything too.
Well, you know what? Maybe our podcast topic is so hot that that's the only way to handle it.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I'm really happy to be here. This is cool. So I really appreciate you having me on, and I'm excited to chat a little bit more about Rocket Referrals, but just to have a conversation with you. So.
No doubt. So, Torey, for our listeners out there, because it's still amazing to me, I even talked to an agent right in Iowa this morning about our new time management program. And I said, do you know Rocket Referrals? And it's funny, I'm bumping into more and more agencies that have heard about you guys, but maybe aren't so clear about what you do. So for all of our listeners out there, if you want to take maybe just a few minutes and just explain a little bit about what you guys do, I think that would help kick us off.
You bet. So our main goal really is to help an agency get their customers to stay longer, buy more, and refer their friends, right? So on top of that, our thought is, how can we do that? So that's our goal. That's the thing that we're always shooting after, right? So when someone says, well, how do you go about that? Well, it's a lot of things like sending handwritten communication to people. We know that that's a huge way that people respond and build better relationships. We also send automated emails, and that kind of thing. We take a little bit of a different approach to that. We want to make sure that emails are all personal. They feel like they're one-to-one communication. We don't really do a lot of mass communication. We want every email to feel like the agent opened up Outlook or Gmail or whatever tool they use in order to communicate. And then we also have this really neat system called the Net Promoter Score system, or the Net Promoter Survey. It's not our system. Someone else came up with the idea of Net Promoter. We just happen to have an implementation for that. And the Net Promoter system is a really good way for you to gauge or to find customers that have issues, to find what you're doing well, what you need to improve on, and that kind of thing. But then also we have the automation on the back end to be able to say, hey, now that I have a promoter, I found someone who really likes me, what do I do on top of that? I want to send them a review request. I want to get a testimonial, or even ask for a referral, right? So the whole idea is, how can we get an agent's customers to stay longer, buy more, and refer their friends? And then we love to hear feedback. Rocket Referrals has grown from doing all kinds of different things based upon soliciting feedback from customers on the program and things. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. It's really hard to explain because there's a lot to it. Although it's really simple for agents to use. So we hope that people just go out and request a demo and kind of see things.
Well, what I think is so cool about what you guys have done is that you have such brand recognition, which is so fun. And I know, and yes, the cool t-shirts and your trade show booths are always big and glowing. So everyone can find you like a beacon of light or what they're looking for. But I just think it's so cool. Your mission of what you're trying to do is really assist agents. And I mean, from my perspective, looking at your price points, to me, it's just like a no-brainer. If you're a business person, understanding your thousands of clients and who's on board, who's off board, means that you can do something about it. And I personally believe you're very economical. I don't know if you want to share with our listeners a little bit about your price points at all.
Yeah, so actually it kind of goes back to the core beliefs of our company. When we started Rocket Referrals, well, the second core belief we have is that every business should have access to enterprise software that typically only, billion-dollar companies have access to. And so we really start at like $150 a month, and that works for a majority of people. And so our thought is, any agency should be able to afford this thing and plug it in and use it and get a lot of benefit. We wanted to create that, oh my God, this is a no-brainer. Of course, I'm going to use it. And that's because we want every agency in the country to use this thing. And we think that it's going to really help the industry as a whole. I really think that we're making a huge difference in the industry, and that, we're helping to get independent agents, connected with people on a personal level. And overall, it's going to make the industry stronger too.
Well, I think what's very cool about that, I mean, think about it, $150 a month. If you save one client every month, you have a positive ROI automatically. So,
Yeah.
for agencies out there that are thinking too hard about it, just do it. And you even go month to month, so there's no real risk, right?
Yeah, that's what we want. We really want people to give it a shot, and we don't want to have a big barrier of entry. We don't think that people should have long-term contracts or anything like that. We just want them to give it a shot. And to some people, it's not the tool that they need. They have other bigger priority things to work on, and that's perfectly fine. That's okay. We let them cancel. Maybe after 6 months, they use it, and they're like, hey, I've uncovered a lot of issues that I need to work on. I need to work on those things and that. So we're perfectly okay with that. In fact, I like it when that happens. Eventually, they come back to us. So it's all good.
So the reason you're on the podcast today and that we kind of connected is that we sort of have a little connection on our new program, which Apex Time Management is officially out in the public. We're getting great interest from agencies who are really struggling to what we call eradicate the word busy, right? So back to our agent, we're so busy, we're so busy, we're so busy. And I've been very vocal about how I hate that word because it doesn't really talk about getting forward. One of my clients had a funny analogy, said, you could be in a rocking chair, rocking back and forth all day, but you're not getting anywhere. And I think for a lot of agencies, we're stuck in this world busy. And so all of our programs have a tie-in to some kind of metric that we're trying to improve. So you can say you started here, you ended here with our program. And we started talking, and I learned something so awesome by how you guys pull clients' databases. And I was hoping you could share with our listeners, like, when somebody's a detractor and they're not a raving fan, like, what are the top things that you are seeing that are driving this? Because ever since you told me, I don't want to give it away, I want you to have your moment, but I've been asking people as I've been out training, and they're like, oh, it's price, it's price, it's price. And I've always been like, no. So Torey, tell us, when you're seeing these comments come back in, what are you seeing as the number one drivers of client dissatisfaction?
It's either I never heard from my agent or you didn't get back to me, right? The combination of those two things. So and a lot of it is response, so going back to what you're saying with time management, we're busy, we have a lot of things going on. A client, has a question and I don't get back to them. The thing is, you don't even know sometimes when you miss these things, because if you knew about it, or you didn't forget about it, then you don't have a problem. But that's the thing is, and believe it or not, what happens then, people will use price as an excuse. No client is going to go to an agent and say, well, I'm canceling with you because you don't service me well. Because honestly, they're kind of done, and they have to have an excuse that the agent can't fix. So they know sometimes that the agent can't, fix the price. And so they're going to just use that straight up, like, and say, hey, you're too expensive, or something like that.
Well, I also think it's interesting too, because you have to say that to the person who gave you bad service, and most of us just find that to be rude, right? I was funny. I was in an Uber last week in Memphis, and the guy he wasn't the greatest Uber driver, but I still struggled to give him a negative review, thinking this is his livelihood. But I wasn't happy. Now I've had enough good Uber rides where that, doesn't matter. But if I wasn't a frequent Uberer, I might go to Lyft, and not give this guy who I'll never see again direct feedback.
Yeah, no one wants to have that conversation. It's not an easy conversation to have, which is one reason that we make it really easy for detractors. Why Rocket Referrals is able to figure out what this is, because we're not, the agent isn't asking for it directly, right? It's going through our platform, and then they even have the ability to leave this feedback anonymously. So that allows the person to give you honest, true feedback without it, impacting the livelihood. They know that it's coming directly, or they know that the agency is asking for it's not going to leave a negative review. So they're not like you, who's going to not leave a negative review because they're afraid that it's going to hurt their reputation. They're not to that level, right? They don't want to hurt your reputation.
Right.
But they still want to be able to give you feedback. And how can someone do that without leaving a negative Google review or something like that? And we think the answer is through NPS surveys and things like that allow them to kind of give you this feedback in a safe environment. You can learn from it. And So speaking to time management, I think that this is a great way to help manage time to some extent, because you're not going to get like negative feedback from every single one of your clients that has it on day one, right? We make sure that we, slowly bring this to you over time in a manageable chunk, so that, hey, I find maybe one or two clients this week that are unhappy, let me call them up, big spat at you, and instead of us sending a survey to all clients on day one. It's not what we want to do. So.
No, absolutely. And I think it's so interesting because it's two things that you kind of pulled out from the data. One, I don't hear from my agent. And that actually goes into our Apex retention program, which forces the team to call everybody once a year. And the feedback I got this morning from a lead was like, wow, we don't have time to do that. There's no way. I don't know any agency that's got time. And I actually pushed back because I said, actually, after 60 days, there's a time savings because you're not dealing with surprises, the spicy customers calling you upset, and then you're scrambling. You're in much, much greater control. And I think it's, the old insurance adage was, don't poke the sleeping bear. We don't want to call our clients because we don't want to know that they're upset.
I want to talk about that for a second.
Oh, you can.
I have to figure out where this came from, because I don't want to say we hear that a lot, right? But we do hear that every once in a while. And it's refreshing to have somebody else, notice that as well. And the interesting thing is, like, it's so far away from all of the data we've ever collected, any research we've ever done. The people that come to an independent insurance agent specifically are looking for service and communication and connection.
No doubt.
And when they're missing that, they're going to go to somewhere that, doesn't have it. Maybe they can start to look at price. They've given up. They're like, okay, well, service isn't a thing that I'm going after. Yeah, they say bye. They're like, if you want to try and compete with the direct writers on price, then you're missing out on the biggest advantage as an independent, agent that you have, and that is relationship. It's your expertise, your knowledge, and you have to bring that to people on a regular basis.
No doubt. And I we really try to drill and work hand in hand inside the agencies on the idea that, the alternative is that we lose clients, right? So when we say we can't, we won't. And this is where I really struggle with something. Anytime, and it doesn't matter if it's my personal life or professional, when someone says we can't and they haven't tried, in my head, I'm like, you actually won't. It's not you can't, you won't, because no one's even tried. It's not like, here's your renewal list, let's call 5 people today. There's been no attempt at even being able to be open-minded about it. But that's what I love about Rocket Referrals, because we have so many mutual clients, as we were kind of sitting down and going through it. And I love it when I get the clients will email me like, here's a 10, here's, here's a challenge, and then I can help research it. We can build better processes and procedures. And I haven't told you this, but my mom actually filled out one of the Rocket Referrals for her agent.
Oh, yeah? Nice.
And my mom is a very particular individual. So I was excited when she gave a 9.
That's great. That's great.
They said the staff is always upbeat and willing to serve. And I was like, and she didn't know I'll ever see anything like that. So that was pretty awesome that Kathleen Donahue, you even got her to show that she's a loyal.
That's cool. So I have to say, one of the most warming things for me, or the things that make me feel really good, is when I hear stories like that. I mean, I think back to, and if I start going down a road you don't want to get into, like backstory, it's fine, but when we started Rocket Referrals, it was Carl and I, like, literally in my living room couch, like, figuring this thing out and applying all this research that we were compiling. And I remember when we flipped it on for the very first agency that started using it, and he started to get, results and surveys and things back within the next 30 minutes. And it's so cool to see the smile on their face when they have a positive thing, and then also sort of that, what do I do about this when they get a negative one, right? Or a constructive one. But to this day, hearing the story that you just told me feels the same way every time, because it's really cool to know that, like, we're not just creating something out of thin air and it doesn't do anything. It really does make a difference, and that's so cool.
Well, it does, because we use the non-constructive, or the constructive feedback ones, I should say, to share with people in an agency, because it's not like me saying, you need to be proactive, or we need to respond to people in this time frame, and that's part of your processes. It's saying that the customer is frustrated because of these two things. So it takes all the third parties out of it. It's you and your customer who's paying you, and you've let them down. Now, that goes in two different directions, right, Torey? It's, hey, you didn't follow the procedures, which let a customer down, which is why they're in place, or the agency doesn't have a procedure. And as a whole, we need to adapt to the trends of where the customer is. But I'm curious, just is, you know, just in your personal opinion, because you've been in insurance for a long time, you know, as agencies embrace this feedback and start getting to it, like, what is your hope that they do with it, right? Because we kind of have this philosophy. It's like, go get Rocket Referrals, but let's talk about what happens when it works, right? Like that next step of, I get all this feedback. Do I talk to my staff? Do I not talk to my staff? Do I fall on the sword? Like, you know, what is your hope that they do with the information?
Well, the agencies that are using it to the fullest extent, right? They are getting, just speaking about NPS surveys right now, you know, they are calling every person that responds to a survey, whether it be positive or negative. And, you know, some people will say, well, I'm just going to call the negative ones. But, you know, Rocket Referrals can do a lot of work. But when you go that extra mile and you actually start calling people, even the promoters, the people that rate you 9 and 10, believe it or not, you're going to start getting referrals from those people just by calling them and saying, hey, thank you very much for the feedback. We're going to make sure that we keep doing the thing that you're talking about. And we hope that people do that. And so our account managers are always trying to encourage people to do it. And, you know, it does make us a little nervous sometimes, right? Because we don't want to have this tool that creates more work for people. Because at the end of the day, like you said earlier, it actually saves you time if you fix these issues ahead of time.
Right.
And it will bring you more business, and you might even have more revenue to hire an additional person that can help, or whatever it is. So that's what I hope. And you know what? A lot of people do that. Something that we're going to be releasing here soon, hopefully towards the end of this month, is actually what we're calling Leaderboard. And Leaderboard's going to have a global rank of NPS scores for all of our users. And people are going to be able to see, well, what is my 71 score actually, you know, rank at? Where does, you know, an 80 look, and that kind of thing. And what I hope comes out of that is people will see other agencies either above or below, and it's an inspiration to try and get up there. Because we know to move the NPS score up, you have to do some of these things, right? You have to send more communication. You have to call people. You have to do the things that we're, you know, talking about. And we hope that after we release the leaderboard, we're going to be paying attention to what like the average score is for everybody, and we hope that that's going to kind of push everybody up.
Well, I'll say, and for all of those people at the bottom leaderboard, just give us a call. We'll help you get there. We'll help you get there. Shameless.
We have a lot of people that are pretty much the same. So there's going to be a lot of ties. And so we're actually in the discussion right now. How do we distinguish that? And so we're adding a couple of new factors of data to help separate 70 with an average score of a 9.1 to, you know, a 70 with an average score of 3.2, for example. So.
No, absolutely. You know, and it brings up another just quick point. I was on the phone this afternoon with a lead vendor, you know, somebody that does purchase leads, and they were talking all about how, well, they do so much better with the captive agents. The captive agents, you know, buy leads and they convert higher. And trying to explain that, you know, if you're with Allstate, they're compensating you 50% for the cost of that lead. And they have this big brand recognition of, oh, Allstate's calling me, I'll return that phone call, you know? And they're trying to get more on the independent side, and we're picking my brain. And I said, you know, for most independents, they don't need to do all the work of the captive leads, you know, of taking this, you know, lead that's been sold and over it. They just need to do the blocking and tackling, right? Like they need to know who their best clients are. They need to know who their worst clients are. They just need to cross-sell. They need to bump retention a little bit, and they grow and they do really, really, really well for themselves. And I think that that's why your product is so cool, is that it's just another tool of the transparency of the things that they need to do to keep the business healthy and thriving.
Right. Yeah, for sure. A lot of these things, are taken care of for your directs and, other people. All that brand stuff's already, it's already done. As service is handled by someone else, et cetera, et cetera. The interesting thing is when you look at the stats, though, from an NPS perspective between an independent insurance agent and direct, or even a direct writer like insurance or something like that, whatever it may be, independents blow them away all the time, and it's because it's a different type of consumer. The people who go to an agent want the service, and they're also people that are going to stick with you all. Retention is better with independents than it is direct as well. So
I know it's so very interesting, but I'm so grateful that you've chosen to get into this crazy industry and help solve some big challenges. Torey, if people are interested in learning more about what you do, what's the best way for them to do that?
RocketReferrals.com, and then just click on demo, pick a time with somebody. We'll go over the system for 30 minutes. And I like to have those demos because, and I push them a lot because I train everybody that does those to listen to what people are saying and understand their agency and what's important to them. There's been lots of calls that we just say, Rocket Referrals isn't right for you. You need to work on this and this and this, and then give us a call. And, there's not a lot of companies that are going to push people away. But that's the best way to really learn about it and understand what we are and how it works and that kind of thing. So.
Awesome. And then the second best way is to consider our Apex time management program, which includes 6 months of Rocket Referrals. So you're going to nail down getting your team organized, proactive. And by doing that and pulling the database, our goal is that we're going to show you a rise in your NPS score, which means you have more loyal customers, happier, they're more proactive. So, you're serving them better by your team having a better morale, less busy work, and really understanding how to treat the customer they want to be treated.
So I'm super excited for this program that you're doing because you really do understand what it takes to make those things that I'm talking about happen, to actually call people and make sure that stuff is there. And so I feel so good about this because people are going to sign up for this. They're going to have Rocket Referrals and your program. They're going to have a system in place, and they're just going to kill it. They're the best. They're going to be on the top of the list. When I talk about that leaderboard. So sure.
Yeah, well, that's our goal. Maybe we should have a little star next to them if they're APP clients, and then we can really.
Hey, I'm up for it. Let's do it.
Could really prove all of it. But we're coming to the end here, so we're going to wrap up with something kind of fun where you and I just get to ask each other just one random question about, life, the world, the universe. And do you want me to go first? Do you want to go first? What do you want to do?
Yeah, go first.
All right. What was the worst job you've ever had, Torey?
I've had lots of jobs. I started working when I was probably 8 with my own company. This is a weird story, but maybe not one that I want to admit to, but I used to break up geodes and then go around and sell the insides as diamonds to my customer or to my neighbors. So I didn't tell my parents about that. And honestly, at the time, I thought they were diamonds. So I was doing I didn't know any better. It wasn't exactly the worst job, though. So the worst job I
sales experience, you were working.
Yeah. I had to make some money to buy my, snacks and things.
Mm-hmm.
The worst job I ever had was a server for this lady who had a restaurant where she'd only serve one family a night.
Oh.
I was only 14 at the time when I started this job, but she was a really good chef, and she would bring in one family, and so I just thought I was doing an amazing job, serving, and this was probably the third night that I'd done this. But then one time she went out into the area where they were all eating, and she apologized for me. She said, "I'm so sorry for the staff. It's all I could find," and all this stuff. And here I am, like this 14-year-old trying to work really hard. And I guess what I learned there was she probably had to have better training or something. I don't know what I did wrong, but that was the last time I ever worked for her. So, man, that was the worst job I ever had.
listen, you learned your strengths and weaknesses, right? You know?
Yeah. So my question for you, this is one that my 14-year-old asked me the other day. Okay, so yeah, this one comes from my Sunday. Would you rather have the ability to read anyone's mind or influence someone's decisions at will?
Oh, definitely influence their decision.
Yeah, why is that?
I feel like if you start like in people's minds, you think about all the things that they're thinking about, like good, bad, and indifferent. You know, so I've learned a long time ago, people have a reaction and a response, right? So if you heard everybody's reactions to things in their initial, you would feel so bad about life in general. You know, whether it's like, that's a horrible color sweater, or what are you talking about calling every client? And then as people digest it, like the rest of their feelings and emotions come through. So I'd rather be able to influence the end result.
Your job would be so much easier, right? You just go in, you're like, okay, we're gonna call everybody.
Yeah, it's like a little fairy wand. Like I'm just gonna influence your decision, like your magical fairy wand. Knowing how, like reading people's minds, I feel like it's the same thing I said about the Uber. Like I won't even leave the Uber guy a bad review because I'm like, that's his livelihood. What if he's just having a bad day? You know. But if it's like 3 or 4 times, now I see a pattern and I'm more likely to act. But I'm willing to give everybody one solid screw up, you know?
Well, in that case, I wish you were my boss back in the day. I would have probably still been there. Who knows?
Well, and then what we do, I realize like there's just no real screw ups. It's like there's always a process planning or a person's not bought in. And I'm not saying that everybody's right in that, but there's a whole bunch of other things underlying it. So if I knew all the underlying things like in rapid fashion, I don't know. Plus, I don't want to know what a lot of people are thinking.
Right, yeah, that's a good point. That's a really
I'm sitting there training and they're like, this is boring. When can I have a bathroom? Like, I wonder what my dog is doing. And I would get so sad. I'd be like, why don't you love this? So that you're paying full attention. So, I think I'm going to influence decisions.
I don't even remember what I told him I would do, but I thought that was an interesting thing for a 14-year-old to think of.
No doubt is it interesting. I think it's kind of cool. It makes you think about, you know, the bigger picture. Well, I know we've got to get you off so that you can pick up your son, but I'm so appreciative of hopping on our podcast. I think it was great for agents to hear a little bit more about what you do, how we need to kind of tackle the problems of the future. And for agents, go check out Rocket Referrals. Definitely go check it out. And like I said, don't think too hard about it. It's potentially $150 a month, and you're going to get all this great information. To me, it's something that you know is indispensable. So go on, get it done, and let's go ahead and talk about what happens next. But have a great November, Torey, and thanks so much for joining us.
You too. We'll talk to you all later.